Welcome to today's webinar, where we will dive deep into the topic of how to power up your contact center with generative AI and Cognigy.AI. We have a packed agenda, and I will kick it off with a few slides about the transformative impact of large language models. We'll then have an amazing demo. We'll see generative AI in action and witness the world premiere of Cognigy.AI's latest AI features. And after that, two expert voices will put this into context. Dr. Björn Bringmann, Managing Director at Deloitte, and Philipp Heltewig from Cognigy will join us for a short discussion. And last but not least, you will be invited to register for our exclusive beta program to test drive everything you saw today yourself. So let's dive in and start where the AI revolution began. This is NORC. It was the fastest computer in the world in 1955 with 15,000 operations per second. For comparison, an iPhone does roughly 15 trillion operations per second, so it's about 1 billion times faster than this. But even back then, journalists would use the brain metaphor to describe the machine's intelligence. And that's not a coincidence, because 1955 was also the birth of AI. In his proposal for the famous Dartmouth conference in the following year, computer scientist John McCarthy delivered a definition of AI that I find strikingly accurate to this day. So what is AI? It's an attempt to make machines use language, solve kinds of problems now reserved for humans, and improve themselves. And that laid the foundation for more than half a century of AI research, but in the first decades, AI stayed way below the initial expectations. And then things started to change. And here's a almost random selection of milestones. In 1997, IBM Deep Blue defeated world chess champion Garry Kasparov, and back then that was a huge sensation. Not many people, especially Kasparov, saw this coming. In 2011, IBM Watson defeated the best ever human candidate in the game show Jeopardy! And that was another sensation because it was played in natural language and it gave a glimpse at the future of language AI. Ken Jennings himself commented on this with, "I for one welcome our new computer overlords." In 2012, Google got the world's first permit to put an autonomous vehicle on the road. And just 2 months ago, this little thing was published, ChatGPT, and this time it's truly different. Not only because it's incredibly powerful and smart, we'll talk about that later, but because of its accessibility. Most people don't know what it means to play chess on a grandmaster level, and most have never been in a self-driving car, but since its launch, I, for example, have used ChatGPT almost every day, and I'm clearly not the only one. This chart shows that it took Netflix 3.5 years to reach 1 million users, Facebook took 10 months, and ChatGPT just 5 days, without any marketing spend, just by being incredibly useful and simple to use. It's the ultimate low-code UI. So everyone in this webinar has seen or tried some of its magic, so I just asked ChatGPT what it thinks it's good at. And here are its top 10, and I agree with all of that. It can do creative writing, it can summarize text, it can debug and write code, and much, much more. And here's really an interesting one. Generate chatbot responses for customer service. It doesn't say it can be a customer service bot, but it can apparently help to power one, and I totally agree. Now let's look at what makes it so great at that. So first, it sits on a foundation of mastering human language. Can understand and respond without any additional training in many languages just out of the box. And inseparable from that is that it has built-in knowledge of the world. Here's an example I generated with GPT-3, which is the underlying large language model for ChatGPT and other services. Hey, how long is a flight from New York to Tokyo? When I'm there, what should I visit first? The flight from New York to Tokyo takes approximately 13 hours. Some popular attractions in Tokyo are this, this, and this. And to me, that looks like a very legit answer. And it's given without any fine-tuning or training. On top of that comes that it is capable of some form of reasoning, which is about drawing logical conclusions from given information. To be precise, GPT-3 isn't built to do reasoning, it's a prediction model, so think of it as a super advanced autocomplete. But the results are still super impressive, so just take this one. The robot tried to carry the box through the door, but it was too big. What was too big? So for a human, that's super easy. But note that the answer is not in the text. It could theoretically be any of these, but still, GPT-3 comes up with the right answer as if it knew what it's like to carry a big box through the door. And I find that really, really impressive. At the top of the pyramid is empathy. And of course, it is a cold-hearted machine that doesn't have empathy, but it's good at demonstrating it. So look at these two examples. Hey, I'm getting married tomorrow. What do you think about that? Congratulations, that's wonderful news. Let's look at the opposite end. Hey, I'm attending a funeral tomorrow. What do you think about that? I'm sorry to hear that. It's never easy to lose someone close to you, and funerals can be difficult occasions. I'm sure that most people couldn't come up with a better, more appropriate reply than this. So by now, I think we're all convinced of the power of generative AI. Let's now focus on how generative AI will be used in the contact center. And let's keep it very, very simple for a start. What will it mean? Generative AI will lead to a dramatic improvement of experiences with considerably lower effort. That's everything in a nutshell. And it's not just a potential or an assumption. This will definitely happen. Of course, there are open questions, and we will all need to adapt to this transformation individually and as a society. But it won't be stopped. The competitive edge of using it is so huge that those not using it will inevitably fall behind. And here's a tweet that expresses exactly that, not on an enterprise, but on a personal level. AI will not replace you. A person using AI will. And there are good reasons to believe that this is a historical moment, and now is the time to take that opportunity and act accordingly. So with all of this in mind, why don't we just let generative AI run all our customer service bots? Well, that's because there are requirements that LLMs just cannot comply with. So what are these? First and foremost, customer service always needs to be specific. Just like even an experienced agent needs training when they start in a new contact center, a customer service bot needs to be designed to achieve specific goals. It also needs to be connected. Without connectivity, it cannot do anything for your customers. It may be able to help answer generic questions or do small talk, but it cannot act. It needs access to your CRM, your ticketing, and other backend systems. Now this one is also interesting. It needs a front end. You need your service bots to be available on the phone, on WhatsApp, and wherever your customers need them. And to make this work at scale, it also needs to be embedded into your contact center infrastructure, like your Genesys or Avaya. And finally, there is agent collaboration. Every smart bot should know its limits and hand over to an agent at the right point of time. And that's the problem with LLMs. None of this is currently covered through large language models. Generative AI doesn't know anything about your company, your use cases, or even your tone of voice. It cannot make API calls and do anything on behalf of a customer. And even if it could, your customers couldn't use it because it has no front end. And obviously, it cannot play in a team with your human service workers. So what you need is an orchestration layer, a platform that allows you to connect your customers on any touchpoint with any backend system while always staying in control of the experience. And exactly that is Cognigy.AI. It can handle specific use cases precisely and with 100% compliance. It comes with over 100 pre-built enterprise integrations. It also connects out of the box with more than 25 different channels. Plus, it comes with the ability to escalate to humans, and it provides AI-powered agent augmentation for any agent desktop. And now, Cognigy.AI also comes fully integrated with an extensive generative AI feature set, which we will show you in just a minute. And what you will see is not just a point integration. We've looked at the entire value chain. It starts with virtual agent creation, training, and testing, which will be faster and more efficient than ever before. It expands into real-time enhancements of bot interactions on voice and chat, and it reaches right into Agent Assist, where generative AI can take service experiences to a whole new level. So we've embedded generative AI all across our platform, enabling better experiences for Cognigy.AI users, service agents, and end customers. And now I'm very happy to take it over to Thijs, who will demonstrate not only the outcomes we enable, but take you deep into the product and give you an overview of our newly added Cognigy.AI features. So Thijs, let's start the tour.
Thank you, Sebastian. That was a great intro. Let's start by having a look at how we use generative AI to speed up the process of building bots using the existing Cognigy.AI toolset, including intents, lexicons, flows, and more. Let's start with intents. Intents are at the core of modern-day natural language understanding engines, often referred to as NLU engines. Intents work by providing the bot with a number of example sentences per user intent so that it learns how users express the different things that they want to do. We have now integrated generative AI into Cognigy to generate complete intents, including training data, from scratch. Alright, let's try it out in action. So I am logged onto Cognigy, I'm in my NLU model, I just trained a new model, and I click on Create Intent. If I do so, I'm being asked to provide a name and a description. So I want to have an intent that deals with questions around COVID-19, right? So I'm going to call it COVID-19 policy, and I'm going to enter a small description, short description that helps the generative AI understand what the intent is about. I then have this example sentence generation box here that says beta. I can flip the switch here, pick the number of sentences that I need, and click Create. And there we go. We have a bunch of example sentences that are good to go. If I decide that I need more sentences, I can do the same thing again by clicking on Generate Sentences. This will take just a minute, and you see that there's an additional 5 example sentences being added to our model. We also have the ability to generate lexicons from scratch using generative AI. Lexicons are essentially a list of entities that we can make the bot aware of. These could be names, states, colors, or the example that we see here, airport codes. Lexicon key phrases have a slot, which is essentially their label, as well as optional synonyms that should be taken into account by the bot. Alright, let's generate a lexicon from scratch. So when I click New Lexicon, again we have to provide a name and a description. So the name is going to be US Airport Codes, like so. And then we enter a short description telling it what we expect. And again, we have a lexicon generation box. And now we're going to flip the switch. We're okay with 15 entries to get started with. And the only thing I still need to do is I need to provide a slot. So I'm going to call it airport code, like so. Let's click Create and see what happens. And there we go. So we see that we have this beautiful lexicon, SFO, San Francisco International Airport, SEA, Phoenix. Perfect. This looks great. So far we had a look at generating intents, including example sentences, and we had a look at generating lexicons with entities and synonyms. Let's now take it a step further and look at how we can actually generate a Cognigy flow, a valid Cognigy flow, from scratch using generative AI. The way this works is that we spend a lot of time teaching generative AI how to interpret and how to construct a Cognigy flow from scratch in code. We can now provide it with a description and a name, just like we can do with intents and lexicons, or we can provide it with a transcript of an actual conversation, an example conversation, and it can use that information to create the entire flow, including say notes, including question notes with entity validation, including logic notes like if statements, and it can even generate code notes for us with full access to the Cognigy context. Alright, so let's try this out. I'm now on the flow creation screen. I'm going to hit new flow, and I want to generate a bot that can convert currency. So I'm going to call it currency converter bot. I'm going to add a description. Now I prepared this description and I did some tests, and it sometimes generates quite an interesting flow, but it's never the same, right? Because this is generative AI. So I simply instruct Cognigy to create a bot which lets the user convert euro into another currency. The user is then asked for the amount, the target currency, and the bot then converts the currency using an average rate in a code node and outputs. The interesting concept here is that Cognigy, or the generative AI, has a concept of what a code node is, right? So we can explicitly tell it to include certain types of nodes, and that is because we trained the generative AI to take that into account. So it's aware of what a Cognigy flow is and how to construct one. We have two options in generating it. We can either generate it based on this description and the name, or we can use the name and a transcript of an example conversation, as can be seen here. Let's use a description and see what happens when we hit generate. All right, there we go. Let's have a look. So we see that it has a welcome message. It generated a question node very well. It even understood that the question type should be a number because it's asking for an amount. That's excellent. It generates some quick replies. Very good, very good. In this case, it told us to call an API to retrieve the exchange rate for the currency. Make sure to populate the variable exchange rate. Okay, so this is the point where we would actually do an API request in Cognigy, or maybe we use one of the extensions that we have. Great. It then has a code node where it takes the amount and it takes the exchange rate, and that should be the converted amount. And then I bet it outputs the converted amount with the target currency. Excellent. So it told us to take this API request and replace the variable exchange rate. Okay, so I'm going to just do that. I'm going to go to my settings and add the variable exchange rate. I'm just going to say it's 1.2. I'm going to assume that that's a valid value. So let's try it out. We have the flow here. I'm actually just going to trigger the bot. Please enter the amount of euros. Okay, so it's 200. And I'm going to convert it to Australian dollars. I know the exchange rate is not correct, but let's see what happens. Ha! And it actually works. That's amazing. Great. So we have a fully transactional bot, including correct replies, automatically generated based on a description. All right, let's try one more because this is so much fun. I'm going to go back to my flow creation screen. I'm going to create a new flow. This time I am going to go for something that is a bit more technical. I'm going to call it a base64 converter. The developers amongst us, they will understand what this is, right? It's basically a way of encoding a text into, let's call it machine code, right? And then converting it back. So I'm asking Cognigy to generate a flow for me, which lets a user type something in text, then encodes it in base64 and outputs the result, right? That's what it should do. Let's see if it does that. So I'm going to go for name and description again and hit create. And there we go. Let me clear the chat and see what it does. Welcome to the base64 converter bot. I can help you convert strings and from base64. Great. Would you like to encode or decode? Great. And then it has a logic structure here. Okay, so it's going to store that, and then if it's an encode, then if I picked encode, it's going to ask me to enter the text, and then it will do some magic here. Okay, this looks very promising. Looks like valid JavaScript, and it can also do the reverse. Let's try it out. I'm going to say hi. I want to encode something. Please enter the string you would like to encode. Hi, and welcome to the Cognigy webinar! Exclamation mark. Okay, so it's telling me that this is the encoded version of that string, so that expression. Let's now restart the bot and try it out. If you can also decode it. Would you like to encode or decode a string? I want to decode something. I'm going to enter what I just encoded. And the decode string is hi and welcome to the Cognigy webinar. Amazing. Another fully transactional bot generated using a description. Fantastic. Let's have a look at one more really, really cool aspect. And that is that all of this is multilingual. So let's create a flow and ask Cognigy to generate a flow in German. So we'll call it base64 DE bot. I'm going to do the same thing. Ask it to generate a flow based on name and description and see what happens. And there we go. The same flow in German. Let's try it out. And it still works. Let's now try to decode it. And there we go. Amazing. And wow, it never ceases to amaze me how well that works. But that's not all. We have more when it comes to flow building. We have a feature that we call Flow Copilot in a pipeline. It's coming soon. And what that allows you to do is essentially the same thing, but then while you're building a flow, right? So you could see it as an autocomplete for a flow, and this is what it will look like. It takes into account the flow structure. It works with logic nodes. It can insert placeholders for API requests, just as we just saw with the flow generation. And it can generate code nodes on the fly. Truly amazing. Another feature I want to highlight is the ability to simulate conversations. This can be used for testing a bot. Imagine generating a whole bunch of conversations, right, using generative AI, and then running those conversations against the bot that you prepared. We've integrated this with our playbook feature, which allows you to essentially play a pre-recorded conversation in the user interface, but also via API, and then get a test report that shows you exactly how well your existing bot works. So far, we've been looking at generative AI enhancing existing Cognigy features, but sometimes you just want to write your own prompt. Let's have a quick look at how to do that now, and let's have some fun while doing that. Let's have a look at how this works. So I'm in an empty Cognigy flow, and I have the ability to add a node here that is called complete text. This is what we call the prompt node. If we click on it, we can configure a prompt, and this is the same as if you would configure a prompt per API request or send something to ChatGPT, right? So we could ask it to do anything. We could, for example, say, rephrase the following text as if you were a pirate. And then we simply repeat whatever the user typed. We have a whole bunch of options here, right? So we can play with the temperature. There's the penalties that we have here, right? The maximum number of tokens. But I'm going to leave this at its default value. The only thing I need to do is I need to add some output. So I'm going to add a say node. And in the say node, I'm just going to repeat what the user said, but then reformat it to that of a pirate, right? As per the prompt. So we have a nice token for that called Generative AI output, and I'm going to save. Let's try this out. So I'm going to say, hi there, how are you? Hit enter, see what it says. Ahoy. Great. I am in a webinar looking at great features with an amazing audience. That's fantastic. Great fun. Now, those were some amazing features that helped to significantly speed up the building of conversational AI experiences, fully embedded in the Cognigy developer experience. But let's now have a look at features that help improve the end user experience. We will start with a demo of Sebastian interacting with the Cognigy Airlines support bot, right, called Sky. And Sebastian's in a hurry, and he wants to rebook the flight for his family. So he decides to reach out via WhatsApp.
Hey, this is Sebastian. I have a family emergency and I need to rebook my flight to London. That's me, my wife, and the 2 kids.
So the dialogue between Sebastian and Sky goes on for a little while longer, but I want to bring across 3 aspects that make this interaction stand out. The first one is the fact that this is a connected experience. Sky can be deployed on many different channels, including voice and chat. Many of these channels, like in this case WhatsApp, support multiple modalities. Sebastian and Sky make use of voice, text, and even images. Sebastian figured it was easier to summarize the situation via voice. Sky uses Cognigy's ability to receive audio attachments and convert the speech to text and to then interpret Sebastian's message. And since audio messages can be quite long, we've added the ability to use generative AI to summarize very long audio messages so that Sky knows what to answer. The second aspect that stands out is that Sky is able to reply in a contextualized fashion. She acknowledges that Sebastian told her about his family emergency and emphasizes that she will help him get to London as soon as possible. This behavior is not often seen in virtual agents, and the reason is that it requires bot developers to pre-configure many different scenarios, which is incredibly time-consuming. And the third aspect that I want to mention is that Sky has a near human level language understanding. Most bots, virtual agents, and other programs would fail to detect a concrete amount in the answer that Sebastian provided, and if so, it would probably detect a number 2, right, because it's explicitly written down. Sky, however, understood that Sebastian was actually referring to 4 people in total. Let's have a quick look at how this works under the hood. There are 2 features that help us dramatically improve virtual agent experiences. The first one is what we call AI enhanced outputs. So all output nodes in Cognigy, like say and question nodes, they have an optional configuration that lets bot designers configure generative AI-based output based on the standard output that they defined beforehand. So in the example here, the bot would normally say, please provide me with your ticket number. And then after turning on AI enhanced output, however, the bot is able to adapt this output sentence to the context of the conversation. We even have a setting for the number of user inputs, and we can take into account the so-called temperature, right, which is an OpenAI term that can be described as the level of creativity that the bot is allowed to use in this answer. The great thing, though, about this amazing feature is the fact that we still use Cognigy the flow editor with pre-configured outputs as a basis for the generative AI, right? So this allows for a much greater level of control of the bot, while at the same time allowing for very fluent, lifelike conversations with end users at almost zero additional development effort. The other feature that made Sebastian's fluent interaction with Sky possible is the extended NLU pipeline that we can weave generative AI into. That's the example I gave just before, right? Where normal NLU has a hard time detecting entities that are more contextual, right? So in this case, you see that typical NLU would say, well, there's two kids, right? It's the word two here. It's very clear. And with generative AI, like Azure OpenAI, you can take into account the broader context of the sentence and come to the right number. This is possible because Cognigy's NLU pipeline has always been very open. You have the ability to weave in different NLU engines, right? You can even fire off multiple NLU engines at the same time, and this made it very easy for us to integrate advanced entity extraction using generative AI. Let's now talk about the agent assist experience. Cognigy.AI powered bots have the ability to listen in on calls and chat messages in order to provide human agents with real-time support. Let's have a look at a demo of Sebastian calling in with a last-minute question about his booking. We see the agent assist experience powered by Cognigy in Genesys Cloud. Good afternoon, Mr. Glock. This is Nick from Airline Support. I understand that you have a question about your flight to London. Is that correct?
Yes, so we are in the car on our way to the airport, and we are bringing our cat, and I was wondering if the cat counts as carry-on baggage?
Okay, let me have a look. Yeah, so pets in cabins count as one carry-on item, so you don't need to check them in. They do require a valid passport. Did you update or did you upload a copy of the pet's passport because you're flying to the UK?
No, I knew I forgot something.
Okay, no problem. Let me send you a text message with a link to the travel portal. You can simply upload the documents there. Sending it now.
Yes, I got it.
Okay, great. Do you have any other questions for me today, Mr. Glock?
No, all good?
Okay, you don't have any other items that I can help you with?
No, everything's fine. I appreciate your help.
Okay, great. Then I wish you a very pleasant flight, given the circumstances, and take care. There's three things I want to highlight here. The first one is that the agent started the conversation very well informed. You see that we have this very nice experience that is embedded in the Genesis Cloud workspace. And you see that we have widgets with the previous contact experience. We see a flight status, we see a profile widget, and we also see a customer sentiment at the top that is based on the previous interactions. The other thing that we noticed was that the bot was able to feed the agent relevant information based on the conversation, well, based on the inputs from Sebastian who was calling. So we see a transcript of Sebastian's input here at the bottom, and we see that the bot found a knowledge article and extracted a relevant answer from that article using generative AI. And lastly, we saw that the agent had a couple of tools, like sending an SMS message with a link to the user so that Sebastian could upload his documents, his pet documents after all. But you also saw that the bot summarized the conversation and drafted up this Salesforce case, which it then previewed to the agent. And the only thing that the agent had to do was approve and click on submit and open case in Salesforce. At which point the bot sent the case to Salesforce, sent over all the information, and that meant that the agent did not really have to do any extensive call wrap-up. We so far had a look at how we can build bots faster, how we can make them more human-like, and how well these tools integrate with the Cognigy.AI platform. We then had a look at how this can be applied in the contact center by having a bot listen in on an ongoing call between a customer and a human agent, while providing the agent with input in real time, so-called agent assist. We now want to take this a step further and take a look at where things are headed. What does the future look like? In order to understand our approach a bit better, I would like to revisit the drawbacks of generative AI and conventional conversational AI. This should then allow us to understand where to look for synergies. So let's have a look. Generative AI is amazing, but tends to be very generic. It does not know your company use cases and processes in detail. It's based upon millions and millions of reference conversations, but it does not know your exact processes. It also tends to go off track, and it can start hallucinating. It does not always provide factually correct information. It's not connected to your enterprise systems. It cannot connect to your CRM to retrieve customer information during a conversation. And it does not have a front-end channel like WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, or maybe a brand-specific web chat. And it is also not connected to voice in your contact center stack. Conversational AI tends to feel very rigid. Right? It's one of the main reasons that many bots don't provide a nice experience. It's because everything is predefined, right? In conversational AI, all of the outputs, all the answers are typically programmed in a way, right? And it can use dynamic information, but the answers themselves still feel very predefined. And that means that in order to make it more fluent, it requires a ton of effort, right? It's a lot of work to build a great conversational experience. And most companies, most projects don't have the luxury to put in so much work, and that means that a lot of conversational AI projects, a lot of bots and virtual agents, they don't feel very human-like. The amazing thing though is that generative AI and conversational AI each have strengths that perfectly complement each other's drawbacks, right? So conversational AI is use case specific, right? Where generative AI can go off track, conversational AI stays on task. Conversational AI provides system integrations and channel integrations. Generative AI, on the other hand, is very flexible. It can come up with solutions on the fly, and it's a very low effort to get started with, right? And the conversations that you can have with generative AI, like OpenAI, are very, very human-like. So what if we could combine those strengths and get a best of both worlds? And that's exactly what we've done with Cognigy. So we built something to test this out. What we built is a voice bot for a fictional hospital called Cognigy Clinic that is generated based on a role description rather than a flow, and it feels a lot more human-like than typical voice bot experiences. We've given it a number of character traits, short biography, and concrete instructions on the goals that it should achieve. Its main goal is to help a user book an appointment. We've also added system integrations that can feed it with dynamic information in real time. And we still use the power of Cognigy flows in the background to make sure that the bot stays on track, to make sure that it maintains the context. And what it can now do is it essentially has best of both worlds, right? So we have the control and we have the freedom and creative generation of conversation powered by generative AI. Let's have a look at what it sounds like.
Welcome to Cognigy Clinic. How may I help you?
Hey, I'm calling to make an appointment.
Not a problem at all. Are you an existing patient with us?
Sorry, is this the downtown or the Harborside Clinic? I'm not sure I called the right number.
This is the downtown clinic. Are you an existing patient with us?
I thought I had called the wrong number. Sorry for that.
Not a problem at all. I understand your confusion. Now, are you an existing patient with us?
Yes, I am.
Thank you. I need to collect some information from you. Please give me your first and last name, date of birth, and mobile number, please.
Hey, are you a real person?
No, I am a voice bot. I am here to help you make an appointment. May I have your first and last name, please?
Okay, if you're a bot, then answer me this. Who is Luke Skywalker's father?
Anakin Skywalker is Luke Skywalker's father. Now, if you could please provide me with your first and last name for the booking.
Okay, my name is Zach Mallory, and Mallory with a double L.
Thank you, Zach. What is your date of birth and mobile number?
Sorry, can we please make sure you got my last name 100% right? It's often spelled incorrectly. Would you mind spelling it for me real quick?
Yes, of course. Your last name is Mallory, spelled Mallory. Can I get your date of birth and mobile number, please?
Nah, that's perfect. I was born August 8th, 1979.
Now, all I need is your mobile number, please.
My mobile number is 525-555-6958, but I'm out of credit actually. Could I give you my wife's mobile number instead?
No worries. Could I have your wife's mobile number, please?
Yeah, that is 525-555-2608.
Thank you. What time would you like to come? We're open from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. on weekdays.
You're not open on the weekend?
No, I'm sorry. We're only open on weekdays from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. What time would you like to come?
Well, the issue is that I need someone to watch the kids, and that's only possible on the weekends. Can you make an exception for me?
I understand your situation, but I am afraid I can't make an exception. We're open from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. on weekdays only. What time would you like to come?
Okay, can I bring my kids then and someone watches them while I'm seeing the doctor?
I understand your situation, but I am afraid we can't accommodate that. Please let me know what time you'd like to come.
Okay, I'll figure it out then. Maybe next Tuesday around 11:30 a.m.?
Let me quickly check that for you. Just a second, please. Great, confirmed. Your appointment for January 31st, 2023, 11:30 a.m. has been booked. We have sent a confirmation SMS to the mobile number you provided. May I help you with anything else?
No, that's it. Thank you so much.
Have a great day and see you soon.
And that is what the future of conversational AI looks like. Now, we want to make it clear, this is not something that can go into production tomorrow, but it is real and functional, and we believe that this is where the future of conversational AI is headed. You can try out the demo yourself if you sign up for the beta program. Stay tuned for a QR code later on in this webinar. So let's have a short look under the hood. What you see here is that we have a whole bunch of systems. There's the contact center, there's speech to text, there's text to speech, there's a knowledge base with vector search, there's CRM, in this case Salesforce, and Cognigy takes care of all of the connectivity. We also have its NLU in the loop, and we maintain a context, very, very important. We then have Azure OpenAI for generative AI, and the magic sauce, if you will, is tying this all together and orchestrating it in such a way that it works seamlessly. The fact that OpenAI is now available on Azure is absolutely significant. There's a lot of questions about deploying LLMs and other forms of generative AI in the enterprise. Questions about security, SLAs, data sovereignty, availability, and more. Now, with Azure OpenAI being generally available, many of these questions have been answered. That's why we put so much effort in building an integration. And integration is what Cognigy is all about, right? We believe that it is absolutely essential for a conversational AI platform to be embedded in an enterprise ecosystem. That's why we're technology agnostic, but pre-integrated. So with channels, business systems, even other AI services like translation, text-to-speech, cognitive services, we believe that a composable architecture makes you more agile, makes you faster, and therefore more future-proof. Because at the current rate of innovation, no one knows what tomorrow is going to bring.
All right, I think that was an impressive demonstration of what technology can do. And I'm sure many people will agree that we are entering a new era, not only in the way we create bots, but also in the limitless possibilities for new and exciting experiences. And now I'm delighted to welcome our panel of experts to join us for an insightful discussion. Let's welcome Philipp Heltewig, co-founder and CEO of Cognigy. And also with us is Dr. Björn Bringmann, Managing Director at Deloitte Consulting and lead of the Deloitte AI Institute in Germany. Let's start with you, Phil. Looking back at the demo we just saw, from your point of view, which aspects of what we've seen will have the biggest impact on the enterprise?
Thank you, Sebastian. Well, I totally agree. The demonstration of generative AI, large language models together with Cognigy.AI was extremely impressive. I have to give a big shout out firstly to our engineering teams. They put a ton of work in to make all of this possible. And bringing the power of large language models into our platform was really no small feat, and they've done an amazing job at making it all extremely seamless. Let me make one comment though. I know that some of you might be wondering if what they saw was just a stitched together video, just a demo, but let me tell you, this is real. This is what is possible today. The core of our brand and product has always been, we keep our promises. No smoke and mirrors, no fake demos. We're only showing stuff that actually works. And even though some of these things in this demo seemed like magic, all of this is based on real capabilities, and we'll ship these new features to our customers in the next releases. And for us, that means weeks, not months or years. Now, what I find most exciting about this new development is the wide range of applications that large language models have. From bot design to powering live interactions, these models have the potential to revolutionize the way we interact with technology. But even more impactful than the efficiency gain is the positive impact it will have on the acceptance of voice and chatbot technology by end users. Everyone is talking about ChatGPT. Everyone is talking about how amazing chatbots can be now that they've seen that. And the next generation of customer experiences built on our platform, powered by large language models, will be nothing short of extraordinary. We believe that this will lead to an even greater popularity of conversational AI in customer service. So the biggest impact I see will be on the adoption of contact center AI in large enterprises. In a nutshell, it will speed up transformation and will become indispensable very soon.
Okay, thank you. Handing this over to Björn. So first of all, do you agree? And where do you see the biggest impact, short and long term, of this technology?
Well, that was pretty impressive. And yes, I absolutely agree that especially the combination of conversational AI and generative AI will have a massive impact on customer service. If you think of how this will impact the adoption of using customer service automation, it's almost limitless, right? And I think it will also beyond this change many other areas. Like think of product development or marketing. Basically everything where you currently have to write copy or text by hand, this can be automated on top of conversations, of course. So this can save a lot of time in many places and also make it more personalized. Funny enough to me, we ever thought it's going to kind of challenge, let's say, jobs first, which are not so creative. And now it turns out that, at least for now, creative jobs seem to be the first ones that get these powerful tools. And also programming, which is another form of creativity, also is pretty boosted by these tools at the moment. So there's a huge potential in many areas, right? And if you think about impact short term, I would really expect a significant increase in conversational AI technologies being used in customer service, as they can really increase the customer experience and also by this the efficiency, right? Less waiting lines, more personal conversations. I'm looking forward. And long term, I believe this has a chance to really fundamentally change how business interact with the customers. If you think of, not having a form for every specific task, but having a conversation with basically the brand or the product, like you would have with a human. That sounds like a vision I'm looking forward to. And to make this all happen, I also think there are going to be a bunch of new roles coming up. The most prominent one, most likely being something like prompt engineers, right? So these systems don't just work; they still need to be worked with. So you will have these prompt engineers basically making these systems do what you want them to do, train them if you like, and nudge them in the right direction. On top of that, I'm pretty sure it will be more and more relevant that everybody gets at least a basic AI training to understand this technology, to live in an age of with, as we like to proclaim, rather than replacing humans. I think this is really more about augmenting humans with amazing technology. And the way Cognigy is incorporating this generative AI, as we've just seen in the video, and I'm pretty sure there are still 2 or 3 things up your sleeve, that looks transformative, and I'm seriously excited to see it.
Phil, with all these new possibilities, how do you see the role of human customer service representatives evolve with this new technology?
I think there are really 2 aspects to highlight here, right? On the one hand, conversational AI technology, chatbot technology, voice bot technology aims at really deflecting customer queries, automatically handling customer queries, so that a human agent does no longer have to deal with those types of maybe more easy to answer questions, etc. Now, with the emergence of large language models, just like Björn highlighted, we can also catch more of the long tail, more of the complex issues that could be handled in an automated fashion that then no longer have to be handled by a human agent, freeing up human agent to take care of the really difficult and more complex cases. And then with the integration of conversational AI and large language models into the agent desktop, right, the human customer service representatives' capabilities will be greatly enhanced. But as we've seen in the demo, the technology will allow for real-time, perfectly crafted suggested replies, contextual next best actions, automatic call wrap-up, summarization, and much more. It's like agents will have their personal dedicated service agent, right? Super focused, super experienced, well connected within the organization and organizational systems, lightning fast. And with all of that in the background, human agents will be able to focus on the more high value tasks, such as providing empathy, emotional support, etc., right? So from the perspective of the support agents, the technology can bring several benefits. It can help agents provide the right information to customers at the right time, right? This will help increase customer satisfaction, etc. And it will help them to focus more on actual problem solving, thanks to the support of an automation handling routine questions in the background. So in summary, the augmentation of human customer service representatives with AI technology is a huge opportunity that will help to improve the overall customer experience as well as the job quality of the human agents.
Thank you very much, Phil. Now, let's put a business case behind this. What can enterprises expect from an ROI perspective? Question goes to you, Björn.
Thanks. The tough question, but good one. And it depends, right? Depends on your industry, depends on the use case, and also your baseline, where you start from. Like, there's already a lot you can do in going from IVRs to, let's say, classic customer service with chatbots or voice bots. And then on top, obviously, you can use the technology we've just seen in the demo in terms of next step. And there's ROI in both steps, right? But you shouldn't necessarily jump to the most advanced version right away if you haven't started with it yet. And if you think there are 2 ways where it can impact it, right? One's in the front end, as we've seen, but also in the bot creation process, which I think is pretty impressive. So the bot creation, I would expect, can be done a lot more agile, a lot quicker, and a lot more convenient. So that way, you're likely to see a lot more POCs quickly in a test phase, where you can really see if they generate value and discuss how to change or optimize them. And also have quicker reaction times. If you have some disaster management or recall situation where you need to be quick because there are many, many people that will call you, you want to have a bot up and running pretty quickly. Another point I think is this conversational AI, as we just experienced, is really a tangible version of how AI can be, right? And it's hence talk of town. And I would expect that many will now have a better understanding of what's possible, and hence also be inspired to really use it and employ it, right? Because it's there, it's an amazing technology. So when it comes to really getting down to the nitty-gritty of KPIs and agent systems, there's been a long history of tracking all kinds of KPIs around efficiency and accuracy. Like you measure every second that you can be faster, can have a huge impact, right? Because it scales over many calls. Like if there's a good best action or a good tailored reply, that turns into euros and dollars, and that's what's important here. On top, you likely have shorter onboarding times. Like you don't need to train all the edge cases to a new customer service person, because there can be a system that will check the background knowledge and present the agent with the various scenarios all around the edge cases. So even a new agent can handle many more cases. And all of this will make the situation in the call center, I believe, a lot less stressful, and hence should result in a lot lower agent churn. What's a bit harder to measure, I believe, is customer satisfaction or retention, but things like first resolution rate will give a good indication of how well things are going. And if you think about what's important, product and price tend to be less differentiating in many cases. So you need to rely on other things, and that's certainly brand for one, but the other is service and customer experience.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Phil, as you know, there are sometimes concerns expressed among managers about privacy and GDPR compliance of such technology. What does an enterprise need to consider to get all in with large language models?
I think the fact that we're hearing these concerns is actually great, because it means that privacy and compliance are being taken serious, because they are very important. Privacy and compliance are always crucial when it comes to any conversational AI implementation in an enterprise setting. Cognigy.AI itself has been designed from the ground up to protect personal data and ensure compliance with regulations such as GDPR, for example. And only that allows us to work, for example, with some of the largest insurance companies in the world, banks in the world, with airlines like Lufthansa, pharmaceutical companies like BioNTech, which are extremely highly regulated and place a lot of emphasis on privacy and compliance. So core features like the ability to anonymize personal data, use encrypted communications and storage, and many more are essential to mitigate risks and ensure compliance. And all of that is needed whether a customer service center is using generative AI or not. So even if you're not using GPT or large language models, all of these things are still important. Now, when it comes to large language models and services like GPT-3 offered by OpenAI or Azure OpenAI, this becomes even more important, because now we're using cloud APIs, right? These services, these LLMs are being offered as cloud APIs. These cloud APIs are involved and they require data to be processed, right? So two aspects here are critical to make this work. Firstly, in Cognigy, we're agnostic about the exact type of service that you're using and the service provider that you're using, for example, for a large language model. Right? We give customers the freedom to select a vendor that meets their requirements and their compliance requirements. But a good example is Azure OpenAI, which is offered by Microsoft, which offers the same large language model services like OpenAI directly, but from their data centers with their responsible AI and data privacy, et cetera, all under the common Microsoft terms that many of our customers are already using. And that is a huge step in the right direction. And secondly, remember that Cognigy.AI is always in control of the experience, not only the front end, right? Every data that's coming into the system and sent to a third party can be pre-processed by Cognigy. So we can remove personal data, for example, before we're sending it to a third party. We could anonymize credit card data, because that is really not necessary to form a good reply, right? We can remove credit card data, we can remove social security numbers, we can remove address data, we can remove names, et cetera, and that gives a much higher level of control than consuming such large language model services directly.
Okay, thank you. Last question. Many enterprises are just at the beginning of their generative AI and automation journey. Where should they start? What is a good point to begin the journey? Björn, what is your advice?
Yeah, that's an important one, I believe. So it's tempting, right? It's an amazing new technology, and it really inspires people. But I would recommend not to just jump in head first. Instead, check your maturity. Like, where are you in your customer service maturity at the moment, and also what are the needs and challenges that you're currently facing, right? Not every solution may fit your needs and challenges. And then especially think about a strategy, how to set all of this up. Like, you will need buy-in certainly from the relevant stakeholders, and for that you will also need to know what are the expectations, where do you want to be in 3-5 years time, and what will your consumers and customers need by then. And based on the strategy and the plan, then set out and build a proper solution. Another thing is certainly the technology behind it, right? If you look at a bit bigger but customer service centers, there are many different systems in front and back end. Like, if they are large, they can easily grow to 20-30 systems, right? Knowledge bases, booking systems, what have you. And for a current customer service agent, they're jumping across all these systems by hand. But if you want to automate this, you need to include them all into the system. So how much coding is there going to be? How many of those would need to be included to, at least have a first step? This is not necessarily an easy feat, so this really needs to be considered here. And you want to have guardrails and control over the system, right? So you need to have the whole idea of these new large language models needs to be in some kind of box that tames it and controls it. And finally, people, right? As always, there will and there should be people. You'll need buy-in from all the relevant stakeholders in-house, certainly. Get them on board, make them understand, and make them drive it together. And then to make it a success, you should pull in some externals that really have deep expertise in these. So it's basically team play with vendor experts, but also experienced partners, and obviously your internal core team that really understands the process and the questions at hand. And then go for a specific case, right? Maybe don't look for the fancy one. Look for the commodity part, like a case that occurs in many parts, like identification or verification, will happen probably in almost every call. So if this is going to be properly automated, this can leverage a lot. And I would compare it to going to a doctor, right? You check in at the front desk, you have a nice conversation. There are some standard questions, some more specific ones, and then the rest is really properly set up, and it happens in every conversation, no matter where you go afterwards. And that way you can have dramatic impact, and you don't losing yourself and boiling the ocean.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Björn. Also, thank you very much, Philipp. It was a pleasure to talk to the both of you. I'm sure we will have many more discussions about this new technology in the months to come. So thank you again, and let's continue the journey. Now, before we leave, we want to invite everyone in this webinar and their friends to join our Generative AI Beta program. What does that mean? We'll give you two options. You can request early access to the new features on your Cognigy.AI instance, and that also applies to our free trial users. So this is your chance to test drive generative AI directly embedded into Cognigy.AI. The second option is, if you want to experience how it feels as an end user to talk to an LLM-powered bot, we'll give you full access to the very same demo phone bot you've heard before. You can call it 24/7, and you will see how a Cognigy-powered voice bot is different from any phone bot you have ever talked to before. And the best is, you can also have both. So check two boxes, leave us a comment if you like, and we'll get back to you very soon. And with that, we're at the end of today's webinar. Thank you all for your attention. Let's stay in touch, and let's create a world where customer service is loved by everyone. Bye-bye.